Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our Success Thursday this week with Carsten Lützen. Hi Carsten, welcome back.
Thank you, and hello.
Hello indeed in this beautiful morning. Virtually it is Thursday, although it isn't really, but most of our listeners will be listening to us on a Thursday, which is great. So on Thursdays, we talk about success for Scrum Masters, and we start with what might be actually one of the most reliable tools for us to help succeed as Scrum Masters, which is the retrospective. So share with us, what's your favorite retrospective format and why?
A new one. No, so I love to change it up a bit, but I always have the same fallback I love to use. I have experimented quite a lot with start and stop and all these, but I really like to have the starfish, the classic starfish, with an extra category in. So that is start, stop, continue, less, more. And then a last one, which is appreciative feedback. I sometimes call that the retro wheel, in lack of better words. I like all the categories because at least to some team members, it's easier to put it into start and easier to put it into stop and less and more and continue compared to just let's try this, let's stop that, or whatever we use. And then the appreciative feedback is, I always use more or less the same phrasing, having worked with a lot of teams. I've learned some of the pitfalls, so I would always introduce it to, in the appreciative feedback, you can put non-sarcastic, non-ironic comments to a person in this meeting. Because otherwise it might become a sarcastic joke or to the team member accidentally not in the retro today. And I really want to work on how do we give positive, appreciative feedback. So for instance, Peter, it was really awesome how you solved this or that, or it was super awesome to see Johnny doing this, and just having people share that face-to-face or virtually in a meeting. I think it's super awesome. And then the first time I do it right, it's probably only me or one else us putting something in that column, but slowly you can start to see people see the value. And when they've gotten some positive feedback, next time they're also probably passing it on to somebody else. And then slowly they're becoming better at actually appreciating each other. And I love that, to be honest. That's where I really enjoy retrospectives.
One of the things that I've learned from practice is exactly what you just said, that maybe the first time you do the appreciative feedback is, there's one or two Post-its there, but once people feel, and that's exactly what happens, people feel the positive emotions that come out of those simple phrases, right? They start to value that. And actually, I've seen many retrospectives completely skyrocket in terms of energy and engagement by just doing that small appreciative feedback at the start. This does not happen necessarily with teams that have never done it before, but as you said, if you do it once, maybe they're a bit shy, but then you do it twice, and then you do it 3 times, and then people start to get it that you actually mean it, right? That it's actually important, and then they start putting their energy into that, and teams can get so much energy out of that appreciative feedback. That's one of my favorite check-in exercises, by the way. When I'm working with a team for a while, one of my favorite exercises is exactly that. It's starting by thanking someone for something they did during the sprint.
And an interesting variation of that, just briefly, is the appreciation postcards. So instead of writing it on sticky notes, just to hand out blank postcards and have people write at least one postcard to another team member, and then collect them in the retrospective, and then during the sprint hand them out whenever you see fit. So you can just see them light up when they get back to their desk, and there is an appreciation postcard from somebody else on the team. And that's a great variation of it as well.
And a great tip to raise the energy in the team in some potentially difficult moments. Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. All right. Now we turn our attention to the Scrum Master, because we use these retrospectives to try to be successful as Scrum Masters. And for that, though, we do need to reflect on the big, big question. What does success as a Scrum Master mean for you, Carsten?
The success for me as a Scrum Master is is multifaceted. So one thing is being a role model. I would always aim to end the retrospective with an evaluation of the session itself to make sure that we start to build up this capability of feedback. And then if I can see it being picked up by the other team members, then I know, okay, at least on the feedback mechanism, we actually moving somewhere. And then if we have this anti-pattern of a Scrum mom, I would like to be able to take a week off or get hit by a bus if I have that urge, and then still see when I get back that they're still having daily check-ins. They're still communicating whenever they need to. They're not waiting, and they're still having planning and all that. That is some of the tangible stuff I always look for. What happens if I'm not there? If everything falls apart, I was definitely not a success.
So besides the practices being upheld, which is quite an obvious thing when we are away, right? So we go away, we come back, like I'm just now going on summer vacation. When I come back, I would like to see that the team is having their planning, that they have the grooming, that they have the daily, that they have the retrospective and so on. But what else do you look at when you come back?
I always look at, so if when I enter the team space, is it dead quiet? Is everybody just sitting at the desk, minding their own business? I would really like to at least have 1 or 2 developers at all points in time talking, because if it gets quiet, then it's super difficult to be the first one breaking the silence. I understand that some people need silence to be able to focus, but then it should still be okay to just like scoot over to another developer and do some pair programming and have some conversation. You don't need to laugh and shout and stuff like that, but still having that kind of open communication at all points in time. I think that's super important. The next thing I also look for is if we have a lot of external stakeholders, so not in the Scrum team, but at all points in time coming in and disturbing the flow. I'm also a bit sensitive to that, because that is ruining much more of the flow in the team that you might expect as an external just coming in. Oh, I just need this quick thing. Can you please fix it right away? And then the other thing is also when we work as a Scrum Master, right? I think the best thing that can happen to me is if the team doesn't really need me, or they don't necessarily all that they cannot say exactly what I'm doing, as long as they just are in a good place, both professionally and as a team. So if things are just rolling along and I can slowly nudge them a bit, help them figure out what is the next step for them to take as a team, then I see myself as a success. If they are like, oh yeah, Carsten as a Scrum Master, he does, he facilitates everything, he makes sure this is done, then I don't think I'm a success.
Absolutely. It's also, I mean, something that has happened to me quite recently, quite often, so a few times in the last few weeks, is working with teams where their direct, I would say, stakeholders, so product owner, leads, and so on, they talk about wanting the team to take more ownership, right? And they see that as a lack, right? That the teams are not taking ownership, are not bringing things to conclusion. They are kind of just doing their job and then leaving the rest to, whatever. Maybe we talk about it in the daily, maybe somebody picks it up, whatever, but I've done my job, right? And I think that one of the things that you just mentioned really points to that, right? Like, is the team taking ownership? Are they actually defining how they want to improve as a team? That would be one aspect that helps the Scrum Master, but also, are they taking ownership of the delivery, right?
And I think the ownership of the delivery, that needs to also include the product owner, because we need to make sure that they feel why. I always ask, so why is this the single most important thing since sliced bread? If we cannot articulate that, if we have one on the team that cannot articulate that, then we have, as a working pair, Scrum Master, product owner, failed, because we need them to understand why this is super important. Either for the company or the world or society or whatever, right? And then involve developers as early as possible, because that also just fosters more ownership of what we are building and why are we building it this way. And you just get a better product in the end, and you get a much happier team as a Scrum Master, where you can really start to have them become a high-performing team, or whatever we call it, right? When they feel that sense of ownership.
Absolutely. A great addition to the definition of how we can look at if we are being successful as Scrum Masters. Thank you for sharing that, Carsten.
You're welcome. It's always a difficult question, right? Because we want to be in the shadows, if possible, many of us.
Absolutely, but something we need to reflect on for sure.
Yeah.
Part of a successful Scrum Master job is to help the product owner. Tomorrow we explore that critical role in Scrum, the product owner role. Tune in to learn about product owner anti-patterns, what you can do to help the product owner, and a real-life example of what a great product owner is and what made it so. Tomorrow on our Friday Product Owner episode. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.